Hello. So today we're going to do problem set 7 from module 6, and we are going to be using this table of data to create a line plot. So it says, Mrs. Weiss's class grows beans for a science experiment. The students measure the heights of their bean plants to the nearest quarter inch and record the measurements as shown below. Use the data to complete the line plot below, and they're asking for a title. So this title would be Heights of Bean Plants, because that is what we are going to plot. And here we're going to take a look, and if we look at our number line, they've already created the intervals for us, and we have x, and we need to say what x equals. So x is going to equal 1 plant. And down here we have the number of bean plants. You guys love watching me make mistakes, don't you? Every video I seem to have one in there. Number of plants is what is running down below. So if we take a look at this chart, we need to use this to collect the data. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. We could do 2 1/4 and put an X, 2 3/4 and put an X. You can also go through and count them all up. If you do it that way, so like if I went and hunted for all my 2 1/4 and checked them off and then plotted the X's, you can do it that way. But one of the things you have to be really careful of is not to repeat your data and accidentally record something more than once or skip something. So you kind of want to use a checkoff method like we did when we first started calculating perimeter. So you want to be pretty methodical and find a strategy that works for you. I'm going to go ahead and just move them through, because in the past when I've tried just counting up all the 3 1/4, you end up missing one or forgetting to check one off. So 3 1/4, that would get an X. Remember, you want to keep your X's about the same size so that your heights of your marks can stay easy to compare. If I go to 2 1/2, I have that. 3 1/4 is here. Another 2 1/2. So, this part is just kind of building this line plot. It's kind of fun, right? You're just going through, checking it off, plotting it down, kind of getting a feel for your data as you build it on your diagram here. So we have 3 1/4, 1 3/4, 2 3/4, and 2. All right, so now for sure I have all of them recorded, and I can see that I clearly checked it off. I even put an X on one. So now my chart is complete. Now on the back side, we have questions regarding this chart. So it says, how many bean plants are at least 2 1/4 inches tall? Okay, got to pay attention to this. They are not asking you how many plants are 2 1/4 inches tall. It's how many are at least that. So at least, remember, when we're looking, here's 2 1/4. They have to be at least this tall. This is that, can I ride this ride question. Am I tall enough for this ride? So 2 1/4 is the minimum height they can be. Can they be more? Yes, because they can be at least 2 1/4. Can they be less? No. So the question is, how many plants are at least 2 1/4? And if we know each X equals 1 plant, we can count up how many from here over are at least 2 1/4 tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we would say 14 plants. The next question is, how many bean plants are taller than 2 3/4 inches? So 2 3/4 inches. And the question is, how many plants are taller than this? So you have to think to yourself, do I include this or do I not include this? If something is taller than this, then they're not this, right? They're taller. So would we look this direction or would we look this direction? If you're pointing this way, you're absolutely correct because these are taller plants than the 2 3/4. So let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 plants are taller than 2 3/4. See, line plots are pretty friendly. You can clearly see what is represented on them. You just have to pay attention to the line of questioning and understand that vocabulary. What is the most frequent measurement? How many bean plants were plotted for this measurement? So the word frequent means often or common or comes up the most, right? So if we take a look, what was the question was, what is the most frequent measurement? Okay, well, we got a lot of measurements that were the most frequent on this particular line plot. I have 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. So in terms of which measurement comes up the most, it's like all of them except for these two. So we will just record them as they show up on the line plot. So we'll start off with 1 3/4 and 2 1/4. 1 3/4 and 2 1/4. And then if we continue on, we have 2 1/2 and 3, 2 1/2, 3, and then our last one was 3 1/4. And they all had, do you remember, 3 plants at that height. At those heights, since there's more than one. All right. George says that most of the bean plants are at least 3 inches tall. Is he right? So at least 3 inches tall. So let's go back here. These are, well, actually, let's go back over. George says that most of the bean plants are at least 3 inches tall. So here is our 3 inches, and at least means that they're this or bigger, right? So let's take a look. Is he right? Are most of the bean plants 3 inches or taller? No, because we've got this whole section over here that are not at least 3 inches tall. So he is incorrect. George is wrong because only, let's see how many are actually at least 3 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. George is wrong because only 6 plants are at least 3 inches out of, let's see how many there are. We had 6. Did we already count these up somewhere? I feel like we did. No. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So only 6 plants are at least 3 inches out of a total of 19. Right? So that's not even half. Savannah was absent the day the class measured the heights of their bean plants. When she returns, her plant measures 2 2/4 inches tall. Can Savannah plot the height of her bean plant on the class line plot? Why or why not? So she has a plant that's 2 2/4. Now, some of you might look at this fraction and recognize right away an equivalent that's very familiar to you. When we look at this chart, right, when we look at this line plot, we are noticing that there is no 2 2/4. So we have to kind of think, if I have 2/4 of something, before you jump to a no conclusion, what is equivalent to 2/4? If you have 2 of the 4, you have how much of it? You have half of it, right? If we took a look at a model and we shaded 2/4 and we made a like model, right? So they're kind of expecting you to recognize this equivalent fraction. If I pulled down my line and made halves, right, this is the same amount. So 2 2/4 is actually equivalent to 2.5. And we do have a spot for that on our line plot that's already identified. So we wouldn't put in a new tick mark or anything like that. We could just simply plot her there. Can she plot the height of her bean plant on the line plot? Yes, because 2 2/4 is equivalent to 2.5, and that, how is it you write words that are not the ones coming out of your mouth? And that is clearly on the line plot. Okay. All right, so just pay attention to those key vocabulary terms: least, at least, frequent, more than, all of those kind of important terms that'll help you pay attention to what parts of the line plot you need to draw your attention to. All righty, I look forward to seeing your homework. See you next time.